Jeremy Doku has become one of the most exciting wingers in the Premier League with Manchester City, while also claiming the title of being Eden Hazard's heir with the Belgium national team. However, how did Doku even reach this point where he's become one of the most skillful wingers on the planet? Well, let's take a look at the rise of Jérémy Doku. Doku was born on May 27, 2002 in Antwerp, Belgium, but more specifically, in a small district of Antwerp called Borgerhout. Now, Borgerhout doesn't have the best reputation, with gang violence being a theme in this part of the city. However, for Doku it didn't matter, because his life was consumed by football since day one. Doku was born into an athletic family, with his older brother also being into football and his father being an ex-athlete. Thanks to this, Doku spent a lot of his childhood playing football on the streets with his family, which is where he developed his skill on the ball extremely fast. This would also lead him to sign for Belgian club KVC Olympic Deurne when he was 5 years old, and then shortly after for Tubantia Borgerhout. This move didn't last long, because the notable Belgian club Beerschot took notice of Doku and took him in. But this didn't last long either, because when Jérémy Doku turned 10, one of the most legendary clubs in the country, Anderlecht, signed the young Doku to their academy. Doku started to make a name for himself in the youth setup, with him becoming the best player in the academy thanks to his fast speed and incredible dribbling technique. Even some youth coaches at the time have said you could not describe how good Doku was. You knew he was going to be a professional. The fact that experts in their field were saying that Doku was going to be a pro while he was still only a child just shows how good he was at such a young age. And by the time he turned 15, he was getting scouted by some top European clubs, one of them actually being Liverpool. In 2018, when ex-Liverpool player Lazar Markovic joined Anderlecht on loan, the Belgian club allowed Liverpool to speak to the young Doku. It wasn't just a normal talk though. In fact, Liverpool brought the young Doku and his family over to England to give them a tour of Anfield, the training ground, and the school. Additionally, Doku had the chance to speak with Jurgen Klopp, Steven Gerrard, Mo Salah, and Sadio Mane. Also, Liverpool guaranteed that they would provide a car and a house for him and his family if they accepted the move. Obviously, with a deal like this from Liverpool, Jérémy Doku and his family were really thinking about it. Anderlecht's youth coordinator, Jean Kindermans, thought Doku was for sure going to leave as well, and thought there was no chance of keeping him. However, Doku and his family decided to stay at Anderlecht, and it was all thanks to Romelu Lukaku. Yeah, you heard me right. You see, Lukaku has deep ties with the Anderlecht academy, so he often visits his old club. One time, Lukaku was speaking to Kindermans, and he asked who was one of the rising stars coming out of the academy. Kindermans obviously told him Doku, but he also mentioned that he didn't think Doku was going to stay at the club. At that moment, Lukaku got Doku's number, called him, and after a couple minutes of Lukaku telling Doku to develop himself at Anderlecht, Doku listened and decided not to join Liverpool. That's crazy when you think about it. In a different timeline, we could have been the ones to have Doku, bruh. I can't believe this, man. Anyways, months after this, Doku got his debut for Anderlecht on November 25th, 2018, when he was still only 16 years old, becoming the 7th youngest player to make his professional debut for Anderlecht. Nothing really happened after his debut for the 18-19 campaign, but in the 19-20 season, Doku became a much more consistent player with the Anderlecht senior team, getting himself a total of 4 goals and 3 assists in 24 games, also scoring against the likes of KV Oostende and even Zulte Waregem. Overall though, at his time with Anderlecht, his talent was clearly being shown, and big European clubs were starting to take notice. Instead of joining one of the biggest clubs in Europe though, Jérémy Doku wanted to join a good club in a top 5 league that would give him a decent amount of game time. Hence, at the beginning of the 2021 season, Doku made the decision to sign for the French club Stade Rennes for 5 years for around 26 million euros, becoming the most expensive signing in the club's history. However, Doku didn't hit the ground running at his new club, and despite starting very frequently for the team, he didn't really start cooking until the midway point in the season. Real quick before we get on with that though, please remember to subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it and it means a lot, so thank you. And also, if you guys can, follow my Twitter and Instagram, both at Nabuto, if you just want to hear my thoughts on football games, transfers, and overall just to get to know me more. So if you want to, feel free to hit me up with that follow. Thank you. Anyways, after the rough start, Doku finally ended up scoring his first goal for Rennes, banging one in for the club against Metz in March 2021. But in that very same game, he was sent off for a bad challenge, getting his first red card in his career. Despite this setback, Doku started to become one of the most electrifying wingers in League 1, and in May 2021 against Bordeaux, Doku managed 12 successful dribbles, setting a new record in League 1 for the most successful dribbles in a single match, beating the previous record held by the Brazilian superstar Neymar, when he had 11 successful dribbles against Lyon back in December. Doku's dribbling started to become so good that he had the second highest success rate of players who attempted the most dribbles, only behind Marseille midfielder at the time, Florian Thauvin. Overall, in Doku's debut season for Stade Rennes, he completed a total of 110 dribbles, the most by any player under 23 in Europe's top 5 leagues. This impressive burst of form towards the end of the season even got Doku called up for his first major tournament for his country, the 2020 Euros. Now, Belgium didn't have the best performance at the Euros, but Doku did play a part in helping the country reach the quarterfinals of the tournament, with him starting the group stage game against Finland and even starting the quarterfinal match against Italy, where he won Belgium a penalty in the game for Lukaku to score. Sadly, it didn't mean much in the end, with Italy defeating Belgium 2-1 and going on to win the entire competition. However, with Doku having a pretty good debut season with Rennes and a decent Euros with Belgium, there were a ton of high hopes for Jérémy Doku's second season at Rennes. Sadly though, it was a season to forget for Doku. In the 21-22 season, Doku would have a ton of injuries, like a hamstring injury, a knee injury, and even a calf injury at different times throughout the year. This would lead Doku to only make 18 appearances for Rennes total throughout the entire 21-22 campaign, only managing to get himself a total of 2 goals and 2 assists throughout it. Doku only managed to start 4 times throughout the 21-22 season, and only managed to get a total of 469 minutes, which isn't a lot whatsoever. Doku even spoke about his poor 21-22 season, talking about how he wasn't prepared for how mentally draining consistent injuries could be, and how he had to develop mental strength, or else it would be very difficult to stay motivated while playing football. Regardless, Doku developed a positive mindset regardless of the pain he was going through, and this led him to have a wonderful 22-23 campaign for Rennes. During the first half of the 22-23 season, he was still a bit rusty and getting some slight injuries, but in the second half of the campaign, he was really starting to cook. Doku went on to be one of the most aggressive dribblers across Europe's top 5 leagues, with him actually having one of the highest take-on success rates in football. This was more than other insane dribblers the sport has to offer, like Vinicius Jr., Ryan Cherki, Alan Saint-Maximin, etc. Moving on, in the game against Toulouse in February 2023, Doku played his first full 90 minutes since 2021, but more importantly, he became the first player in Europe's top 5 leagues in the season to tally 10 or more dribbles in a single match, with him completing 12 dribbles in that game. He also started scoring way more after improving his finishing, with him backing a brace against the likes of Reims and Angers. With Doku's 35 appearances in the season, he managed to score 7 goals and 4 assists, playing a huge part in Rennes finishing 4th place in the league and managing to get a Europa League spot for the following 23-24 campaign. However, through his amazing performances, he was starting to get noticed by some top European clubs, and one of them was Manchester City. Now, the discussions were taking a little long, so Doku actually played a couple of games for Rennes in the 23-24 campaign, getting a goal in Rennes' 5-1 win over Metz in the first match of the campaign, completing all 9 dribbles he attempted and won 14 duels, most out of any player on the pitch that day. However, the discussions were finally over, and the recent treble-winning side, Manchester City, signed a player they desperately wanted, Jérémy Doku, for around 65 million euros. Man City were looking for a speedy, tricky winger, someone like Riyad Mahrez, who departed the club to join Al Ahly in Saudi Arabia. Cole Palmer was actually initially supposed to be the heir to the throne, but despite Pep Guardiola publicly coming out saying he wanted to keep the winger, Palmer decided to take his talents to Chelsea, where he would actually score a goal against City in the thrilling 4-4 draw. Anyways, with Riyad Mahrez and Cole Palmer leaving the club, there was a gap open for another winger to come through, and that's why Man City paid the big bucks for the 21-year-old Belgian winger. Now, so far in the campaign, Jérémy Doku has been one of the most entertaining players to watch in the Premier League and in the Champions League. Doku got his first Man City goal against West Ham, another club that was interested in signing Doku actually. After this masterclass, Pep Guardiola spoke about how surprised he was about Doku, saying things like he was a proper winger, and it's been a long time since he's seen a player that special. Then against RB Leipzig in the Champions League, Doku scored his first career goal in the competition, helping City to a 3-1 victory. Going back to the Premier League, when City played Brighton, Doku was named man of the match, as he assisted Alvarez in the game and also repeatedly beat James Milner on the left-hand side during the game, using his speed and believable body feints to his advantage. Then in the game against Bournemouth is when Jérémy Doku really started to show how good he could be. In that 6-1 victory, Doku alone got 1 goal and 4 assists, becoming the youngest player in Premier League history to have 5 direct goal involvements in a single match, and also tying the Premier League record for most assists in a match. Additionally, in the game against Liverpool recently, Doku completed 11 dribbles, the most by any player in a single Premier League game since September 2021. So what's changed for Doku, and how is he performing so well for Man City recently? Well, it's all thanks to his mentality and Pep Guardiola. For his mentality, well, take a look at what he said.
Je dis, moi je vais tuer mon défenseur, il doit pas savoir dormir, il doit me détester, il doit pleurer et tout.
You see, Doku wants to make the defenders cry when they go against him. With a mentality like that, you know Doku was always set out for greatness. When he dribbles, he can definitely hear the highlight music playing in the background to himself. This guy's scary. It's not just his mentality though, like I said. It's also because of Pep Guardiola. The Man City manager spoke out publicly about Doku, saying things like they want Doku to use his skills whenever he feels like it's best. If Doku wants to take on a 2v1, Guardiola will let him. They brought in Doku for his skills and speed, and they want him to use that gift as much as possible. With Guardiola believing in Doku so much, you already know Doku's confidence has to be sky high, which is probably why Doku is playing so well in the Premier League right now. So now with Doku becoming one of the main Manchester City players, with him starting more times than Jack Grealish now, and him becoming the best winger for the Belgian national team, Jérémy Doku is set up for greatness, and is definitely going to be one of the best wingers in years to come. For me, I want to see Doku perform well, because football fans need more entertaining wingers like him in the world for real. Just don't do well against my Liverpool, bruh. I don't want to see that. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it. Also, please be sure to follow my Instagram and my Twitter. The links are in my YouTube description. And last but not least, if you want to learn about the craziest butterfly effects in football history, you definitely want to check out this video right here. You won't regret it.